understand something before I start. I didn't lose my mind. I didn't lose my memory. I lost myself, piece by piece, message by message, until the person she fell in love with wasn't me anymore. And the worst part? He was better at being me than I ever was. It started on a Tuesday. Nothing dramatic. No thunder, no blackout. No sense that the world had quietly tilted sideways. Just me in my apartment, eating cold pasta at my desk and staring at code I hadn't touched in 3 hours. My phone buzzed. One notification. A text message from myself. Let that sink in. I mean that literally. The number at the top of the message thread was my own. My full name. My contact photo. That slightly embarrassing photo my sister took at her wedding last year, where I'm mid-blink and holding a bread roll. My first thought was that I'd accidentally messaged myself. I do that sometimes, copy a link or a note and paste it to the wrong chat. So I opened it. Message read, set your alarm for 7:43, not 7:30. The 8:15 train is delayed tomorrow. You'll make it in time. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I looked at the timestamp. Sent 11:02 p.m. tomorrow's date. Have you ever had one of those moments where your brain just refuses to process something? Like it builds a small wall around the information and says, no, we're not doing this right now. I refreshed the app, checked my sent messages. Nothing. I took a screenshot, set it aside, and went to bed. Set my alarm for 7:30 like I always do. I did not listen to the message. The 8:15 train was 40 minutes late. I stood on the platform in the gray morning cold, watching the delay counter tick up, and I thought about that text with a feeling I couldn't quite name. Not fear, not yet. Something closer to the feeling you get when you think you're alone in a room, and then hear someone else breathe. The messages kept coming. Not every day, not at first. Maybe 3 or 4 times a week. Little things. Don't order the chicken at lunch. You'll feel sick by 3 p.m. Once, simply, call your mom tonight. She needs to hear your voice. I called her. She'd had a hard day she hadn't told anyone about. That one hit different. This is where most people would have told someone. A friend, a therapist, anyone. I didn't. Because here's the thing nobody talks about when something impossible happens to you. You don't run screaming into the street. You don't call the news. You get quiet. You get careful. You start treating it like a wild animal that might disappear if you make a sudden movement. I started following the messages. I told myself I was running an experiment, testing the hypothesis, gathering data like a rational adult, and not a man who was slowly giving the steering wheel of his life to a ghost in his phone. 2 weeks in, I canceled a dinner plan based on a message that said, "Don't go. You'll say something you can't take back." My friend Marcus was furious. Didn't speak to me for a week. A week later, I found out that dinner had turned into a screaming argument between our whole friend group over something I had said months ago. I wasn't there. I missed it entirely. The messages were always right, every single one. And something in me, the part that should have been terrified, started to feel something else entirely. Safe. Her name was Lena. I want to describe her the way you describe someone you actually met, not someone who was handed to you. But looking back, I'm not sure there's a difference anymore. The message came on a Friday evening. Go to the bookshop on Crane Street tomorrow. 3rd shelf from the left. Architecture section. There's a book with a red spine, slightly pulled out. Pick it up. Read the back. Don't put it down too quickly. I should have asked why. I should have asked 100 questions. I went to bookshop. The book was exactly where the message said it would be. I picked it up, some dense thing about mid-century brutalist design, and I was reading the back when someone reached past me for a book 2 shelves down and said, without looking at me, "That one's actually better than it sounds." I turned. She was looking at the spine in my hands with a small, slightly amused expression, like she caught someone pretending to enjoy something they clearly didn't. "You've read it," I said, 3 times. She pulled the book she came for. The last chapter made me cry, which I resent. Her name was Lena. She was an architect. She had ink on her left hand and a habit of tilting her head when she was deciding whether to trust something you said. We talked for 40 minutes in that aisle. She gave me her number when she left. That night, I got a message. Good. Now don't overthink the first text. I want to be honest with you about what happened next. The messages didn't just tell me what to do. They told me who to be. Before our first date, she'll bring up her father within the first hour. Don't change the subject. Just listen. She did. I listened. She cried a little. She apologized. I said, and I'm reading from a message I received that morning, word for word. You don't have to apologize for grief. It doesn't have an expiry date. She looked at me like I'd handed her something she'd lost. Have you ever said something so perfectly calibrated to someone's pain that you felt like you were reading from a script, like the words were right, but you weren't quite the one who wrote them? Before our third date, she's going to ask about your last relationship. Don't lie, but don't tell the whole truth either. Tell her the part about the apartment. Nothing else. Before our 6, she's pulling back. She thinks you're too good to be real. Tell her about the thing with your father, the argument at Christmas. The real one. I told her. The real one. The one I had never told anyone. And she leaned across the table and put her hand over mine and said, "Thank you for trusting me with that." And I felt something I can only describe as hollow, because I did trust her. I genuinely did, but it wasn't my trust she was receiving. I kept telling myself the messages were just helping me be a better version of myself, coaching me, like every self-help book I'd never read, compressed into a notification. But a better version of myself wouldn't need to be told what to feel. The first time Lena said it, I didn't hear the warning. We were cooking dinner at her place. She'd made a playlist I'd suggested based on a message I received that morning, and she laughed at something I said, and then went quiet for a moment and said, "You know, you already told me that story, about the record shop, word for word." I stopped stirring. "When did I tell you that?" She frowned slightly. "Third date? You told it exactly the same way. Same pauses and everything." I laughed it off, said I must repeat myself more than I realized. But I went home that night and scrolled back through my messages. And there it was, a message from 6 weeks ago. Tell her the record shop story, the version with the rain. Pause after, and the whole streetcar just went quiet. I sat with my phone in my hands for a long time. The second time was worse. We were walking home after film, and I said something I had been told to say, something about how I noticed the way she got quiet in crowds. And she stopped walking. "You're not acting the way you used to," she said. Not upset, not accusatory, just observational, like she was noting a change in weather. "What do you mean?" She shook her head. "I don't know. The last few weeks you seem further away, like you're thinking about what to say instead of just saying it." She wasn't wrong. She was just looking at it from the outside. I was looking at it from inside a shrinking room. I decided to stop. It sounds simple. It wasn't. I turned off notifications. I didn't open the messages. For 4 days, I just talked to Lena the way I would have talked to anyone I was falling in love with. Stumbling, uncertain, occasionally saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. It felt terrifying and real and entirely mine. And then she started pulling away, not dramatically, not in a way I could point to and name. She was just slightly cooler, slightly less present. Text took a little longer. She canceled one plan, then another. Nothing explainable, nothing I could confront. On the 5th day, I broke. I opened the messages. There were 17 of them, unread, going back 4 days. The first few were instructions I'd missed. Simple ones. Things I should have said. Then they changed. You're ruining it. She's already halfway gone. Read these. You think this is yours to decide. It isn't. She doesn't love you. She loves what I built. Stop fighting it. Read that again if you need to. She doesn't love you. She loves what I built. I put my phone face down on the table. My hands were shaking, not because of what the message said, because I knew, with a clarity I hadn't felt in months, that was right. I'm going to tell you what I believe happened, and I wish I could give you one clean answer. I really do. Maybe it was a hack. Someone buried deep in my phone, patient, invisible, watching, feeding me lines like a prompter crouched just off stage. It's possible. It's the most rational possibility. Someone with access to my location, my calendar, my contacts. Someone who studied me long enough to know what I needed to hear and exactly when to say it. But no hacker predicted what Lena would say before she said it. No algorithm knew her grief before she shared it. There were moments, small ones, easy to dismiss, where a conversation would shift in a direction I somehow already knew, like I'd lived it before. Not dreamed it, lived it. The specific tilt of her head before she laughed. The exact pause before she said something serious. I'd feel this strange, warm recognition. Like walking into a room and knowing where all the furniture is in the dark. I told myself it was déjà vu. I was very good at telling myself things. So maybe it was me, a future me, broken, desperate, reaching back through whatever crack exists between tomorrow and today just to fix what he'd already lost. Coaching himself, scripting a second chance. And I want to be furious at that. I want to call it pathetic. But if I loved the way I think I did, wouldn't I reach back too? Wouldn't you? But a future me would want to win. These messages didn't feel like that. They felt like someone slowly taking the wheel, not handing me tools, but replacing me with someone who didn't need them, something wearing my face. That's the thought I keep coming back to. And yet, God, I hate this part. It built a version of me that knew exactly what to say, exactly when to say it, exactly how to hold Lena's attention and earn her trust and make her feel genuinely, completely loved. And I know what I'm supposed to feel about that. But underneath all the horror, there's this smaller, shameful voice that keeps whispering, it worked. The terrifying thing isn't that something used me. The terrifying thing is, part of me would let again. Have you ever met someone who seemed too good to be exactly what you needed? Like they knew your wounds before you showed them? What they did? I opened the messages again. I read through all of them, all the way back to the first one. The train delay, the harmless little nudge. And I saw it now for what it was. Not help, testing. It was checking whether I'd listen, whether I'd comply, whether I could be steered. And once it knew I could, it started building her a boyfriend. I called Lena that night. She sounded warm but distant, like someone at the end of a long day. I didn't use a script. I just talked. She said she'd been feeling like we were in different places lately. I said I understood. There was a pause. Then she said very quietly, I miss how you were at the beginning. And I didn't know what to say to that, because the person she missed was never me. 3 days later, I received one final message. I hadn't opened the app. I tried to delete it twice. Both times my phone restarted before the uninstall completed. The message came at 2:17 a.m. It wasn't instructions. It wasn't a warning. It was 11 words. She was never yours. I just borrowed her for a while. I've read it maybe 200 times since then, and every time I get stuck on the same word. Borrowed. Not built. Not manipulated. Not stolen. Borrowed. Like she was something I had, temporarily. Something real and whole that existed before me and would exist after. Something the messages, whatever was sending them, understood the value of far better than I did. I still see Lena sometimes. We ended things. Mutually, quietly, the way things end when neither person can name what went wrong. She doesn't know what I know. I haven't told her, because what would I even say? I'm sorry. The version of me you love was being narrated by something that can see the future, and I was just a vessel? She seemed okay the last time I saw her. Better than okay, actually, like something complicated had resolved in her life. I wonder sometimes if she's getting messages too. I wonder if she ever followed them. I haven't received a message in 43 days. I've been counting, and I know I should feel relieved. I know the silence should feel like freedom, but there's this thing that happens sometimes. Late at night, when I can't sleep, I pick up my phone, and I check, not because I want to follow them, because I'm terrified of what it means if they've stopped. It stopped sending messages when it found someone better to use. And I'm still not sure if I'm the one it left behind, or if I'm the one it's still watching.
Did Lena know? Was she ever real? Or was she talking to something else the entire time? Tell us what you think happened to her. The comments are open.
If you've made it this far, thank you for staying.
And if this story found something in you tonight, subscribe to The Whispering Hour. We whisper a new story every week.
Stories like this one don't end when the narration does. They follow you into the quiet, into the moment you check your phone before you fall asleep, into the second you see a notification from a number you almost recognize. That's what The Whispering Hour is for. If this found something in you, that particular chill that lives between your shoulder blades when a story feels too real, then you're already one of us. And before you go, check your sent messages. Just once. Make sure there's nothing there you don't remember sending. And if you're hearing this now, he's already stopped fighting, which means something else has started listening.